and welcome to the Film Wheelcast. Today we're going to break the tradition and we're going to do a quick review of DareDevil, the TV series. We're going to do it episode by episode, and this will be hopefully out on YouTube. So over to James, as we haven't got a lot of time, to give a quick rundown of episode 1, DareDevil on Netflix.
Hello boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you over a mobile phone because my face is infected. There will be pics. Anyway, back to DareDevil. Summary of the first episode: Murdoch's vigilante crime fighting and his new law practice find equally dangerous challenges in a murder case tied to a corporate crime syndicate. It's the first episode of the Netflix exclusive DareDevil. Very, very adult themed. Guys, I mean, what do we think?
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this series. Hi, Stuart. And I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest. I mean, if we get into the characters, obviously you've got Matt Murdoch, played by Charlie Cox, Karen Page, the character played by Deborah Ann Wool, and you've got Foggy, who's his colleague, Eden Henson, and you've got Wesley, who's the kind of evil sidekick, who's Toby Leonard Moore, and you've got Wilson Fisk, who we don't really see in this one too much, who's Vincent D'Onofrio, and you've got obviously the guy who plays Jack Murdoch, who's John Patrick Hayden. So they're the characters. I think in first impressions it's a really tight cast, and I really like what I've seen so far in the first one. I mean, we may as well crack on. It starts off with a kind of origin story with the accident that happens. It's a flashback when Matt Murdoch is blinded. What did you think of this scene, guys?
Well, it's obviously very much like... Sorry, cut you in, James. It's very much like the movie, isn't it? The accident occurs, slightly different to the movie, but it's really good. It is quite graphic, and it is quite a complex scene, and you don't quite know what's going on really, because of the accident and everyone shouting and screaming. But it's kind of the first time that you almost see his underlying kind of helpful trait by the old bloke that gets helped up and says, he pushed me out of the way, he saved me.
Yeah. What did you think, Jay?
Yeah, definitely, I completely agree with that, Grant. It was different in a good way, and I think the way it was shot, you really felt the chaos, and I think you felt for the character a lot more than, for example, you did. I don't mean to get into too many comparisons, but you did in the movie DareDevil. I mean, it was completely helpless. The dad was there. It happened off the cuff, and as Graham said, he saved the old man. That gave you so much information in just one scene. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's done very well and it's very simple. There's an accident, there's a spillage of the chemicals. His dad comes along, there's a crowd of people there. He finds Matt, who's in the centre, and whilst he's cuddling him, you see from a point of view perspective of Matt's sight goes, and really that's it. And then next it goes to the church when he's a grown-up, I suppose it's present day, when he's asking for forgiveness from a vicar. And I like this scene because it's very simple but it's very effective. The fact he's asking for forgiveness for not what he's done previously, but for what he's about to do. And I love the kind of the sinister side of him there really, and what he's going to do.
It's certainly an interesting concept, the old begging for forgiveness and asking for forgiveness beforehand, but it kind of doesn't give you everything, and then kind of think, well, what is going to happen, and why does he need that? It kind of like sets it up quite nicely.
Yeah, and obviously it's setting it up for the first fight scene, which is down at the docks. James, what did you think about the first fight scene?
I tell you what, I've never really been in any fights, yeah, and it's going to sound a bit silly, but those fight scenes seem so much more realistic than any other superhero fight scenes I've ever seen. Now, bear in mind, I've not really been in a fight like that, but you really feel the punches. You know, the real sound of a punch almost feels like, rather than the cartoony kind of way, which has been done, and they're shot very close action, almost like you're there. And I think it's the complete opposite to Michael Bay action sequences in a very good way.
It was.
What you guys
it was quite close, like shooting wise. It was very, very closely shot. I think it got a little bit confusing after a while. With a little bit, maybe too much going on, but I thought that it did set it up, and it kind of almost showed a bit of chaos. The fact that he wasn't like this straight superhero. He was just starting and just trying out, and he was still getting his arse handed to him. But I also, as I mentioned to Stu earlier, that in these fight scenes throughout the whole of this so far that we've seen, they fight, and it actually looks like their person's getting injured, and they're not just going to get out Hollywood style and smash it out again. They are actually getting injuries and exposed bone in some cases.
Yeah. So the reason why he's fighting is to free these women from sex trafficking, which he does. And from there, it goes to a building site where we kind of get a brief introduction of the bosses, the four leaders, I suppose they are, the different bosses of crime syndicates, from the triads to the Russians or the European-based people who want to kind of run the city. And then, so it's a quick introduction from there, and then it goes to the main storyline, where we meet, obviously it's our first glimpse that we get from Karen Page, the character who's standing over a dead body, and she gets arrested. And that kind of leaves you guessing of what's going to happen, who she killed. Is this linked into one of the crime syndicates? But then again, after that, we see Murdoch, and then we see Foggy for the, I think it's the first, or one of the first times we see him really speak as a character part, who's Murdoch's colleague.
But it is interesting how she's standing there going, it's not me, and they were looking for a case where someone was pleading their innocence, and they believed that she was innocent. And in this one, they were holding out until this particular case came along, which is a bit rubbish if you're trying to run a business, but still.
Yeah, it was convenient, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, and then suddenly this one comes along because they get the tip-off from the Bent police officer at the precinct about this job coming in.
No, absolutely, and I think we must remember, as much as this is going through the origin story of Matt Murdoch in the past, I think in the present this is very much an origin story for the character of Karen Page, and what she goes through obviously makes her, where she ends up when you continue through the series.
Yeah, exactly, and from the start, she's a very likeable character, and from the kind of, I suppose in a way it's a superpower, for want of a better word, to listening to her heartbeat, such as he does in the films. Matt Murdoch knows that she's telling the truth, and the story kind of rolls on from there. It progresses, doesn't it, to the extent where she tells the story that she worked for Union Allied Construction. She saw the books and the pensions, and the money was kind of being laundered, and due to the knowledge that she had, it was a confusion of why they didn't try and kill her straight away, and why they actually wanted her to live, and what were the reasons, which was set to the next scene of her attempted murder, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and that was, once again, it's very adult, isn't it? I mean, straight away from the beginning of this episode and continuing, it's the most adult theme I think one of our Marvel series, superhero series, have ever seen. I completely concur.
Yeah, it is, and one of the prison officers, he gets blackmailed, and he goes into the cell to try and obviously kill her, tries to strangle her, and she manages to wrestle free, and then the two non-crooked solicitors in Foggy and Murdoch, they then put that to the police, and then get her out, and she gets released after saying about the assault and how the CCTV didn't work in her cell and no one can see how it happens. But then after that, it goes on from her release. There's a little bit more of a development of the characters between the group, but it then the next major part is where she goes back home again. She kind of sneaks away from Murdoch's house, thinking that he's not going to see her. She sneaks out and goes back to her place.
Even though he's blind.
Even though he's blind, not going to see her anyway. And she kind of battles with going through the door, seeing the blood on the floor, and she goes and reaches for the USB in the kind of heating duct. And as she reaches the USB, it's got that information on it from Union Allied Construction. Someone's behind her and takes her out, and this is where you see the second coming of Daredevil, so to speak.
Exactly, because it's an assassin who's been organised and sent by a character who he's got a name as Wesley, who's Fisk, who we haven't seen yet, as right-hand man. And I like this character Wesley. He comes across as someone who's very evil, very cold, with no feelings with regards to taking anyone out, whether it be male or female. And what did you think of the fight scene that led from Matt Murdoch, or from Daredevil as he was then, James?
Yeah, they're very good, and what I liked about it is we're still exploring a Daredevil character, so he is like when he goes into a fight, it doesn't feel like a sure thing that he's going to win. You know, bear in mind he probably does because he's the hero of the piece, but you always feel that he's vulnerable, and a lot of the time you don't feel that when you get to these superhero shows that have been on film or TV when they fight.
Yeah, and the fight is proper hardcore. You actually hear the punches and bones and cut. It is really, really hard.
Yeah, that's the good thing is you can actually, you do feel that, and it does make a lot of sense. So it's still very close quarters kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it does show that he is weak and he is only human
and
still. At the end of the day.
Choreographed fantastically, isn't it?
Oh yeah, exceptional. And then after this, they eventually
he takes down the baddie, obviously.
He does. Yeah, he takes him out, and then hires Paige.
Yeah.
As a legal assistant because she can't pay him. They need money and they need a legal secretary. She's a secretary, so she then works for him. Or them.
But it's great chemistry between Murdoch, Foggy, and Paige, isn't it? Really, really good. And what did you think at the end of it with the child abduction? Where that went, James, just quickly.
I tell you what, it is very scary. I mean, the child abduction, everything. You realise how messed up Hell's Kitchen is, and that it's desperate need of a hero. And then all the things going wrong as the first episode comes to a climax obviously shows you that and gives you a bit of a preview, I believe, of what's going to happen throughout the series. Very much the next few episodes, and the reach, for example, of the Kingpin, for example, going back quickly to the attack in the cell, the attempted assassination. It's gripping stuff.
Yeah, it's very scary. It really is a horrible scene. But overall, my first impressions, I really, really enjoyed it. It was what I wanted, and I'm really looking forward to episode 2.
It is going to be interesting to see how it pans out over the next few episodes and see how the story develops. But yeah, it's keeping you on the edge of your seat. It's wanting you to watch more and more. James, what do you think finally?
Yeah, massive thumbs up for me. One of the best pilot episodes for a TV series, for any superhero TV series, and probably TV series in that case. I think because of Netflix, they don't have to bow over to the big TV companies. They can do what they want, and I think this is the result of it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's our thoughts on episode 1. So listen out for our thoughts on episode 2. And
subscribe and you will not miss.
Yeah, and www.thefilmcast.co.uk. But it's a good night from all three of us.